Hey there, everyone. I'm Maddie Diamond.
Hello.
I'm Maddie. I'm from Zero Waste Revolution. I am coming to you from my temporary bedroom in Impartway, which is Alice Springs in the Central Desert. And I'm talking to Jess Fordyce today, and we're going to have a really quick and informative little chat about supermarket food waste in Australia and that whole problem and what's being done about it. This is our
Yep.
guest, Jess. She is also a member of Zero Waste
Hi.
Revolution, but does a million other things as well because she's just super keen and motivated and
Has
really
no life.
has no life. The life is out here saving the planet. We're busy. So Jess, do you want to tell us a bit about like what you do, what's your job, what's your volunteering, what's your involvement with Zero
Yeah,
Waste kind of look like?
yeah, for sure. So hi, my name's Jess. My pronouns are she, her. I'm coming from Ngunnawal land. And basically I got involved with Zero Waste Revolution because I got roped in by Mia. And basically the sustainable community in Canberra it's quite small, so everyone knows everyone. And as soon as something pops up, you just basically get involved because you just get roped in. Same thing with trash gather. So I also got roped into trash gather by Maddie. Um,
Not to mention you do passionately love both groups of your own accord.
yes, yeah. I'm making it out as if it's a chore. And basically, yeah. I hope that answers the question, but probably didn't.
So what do you do? What's your kind of role in Zero Waste Revolution and Trash Gather?
Yeah. So basically, I am the communications officer at Trash Gather. So I'm doing all the newsletters and the social media, and also just getting out and get my hands dirty whenever we actually do have a cleanup.
Awesome.
And then with Zero Waste Revolution, I was basically the stores coordinator. So going out and getting stalls all engaged and basically trying to get everyone all good to go. And then that kind of fell off the radar with COVID. So
So for
moment,
yeah, I was just going to say, for those who don't know, we did have the Zero Waste Festival organized for September of this year, but obviously lockdown and all, so it's April next year, but it's still happening.
Yeah. Still going ahead. So give it a couple of months and I'll be back engaging stalls and making sure we have a really cool day lined up.
Absolutely. Love it. All right. So today you do a million good things, but today I specifically wanted to talk to you about your job and what you do every day, 9 to 5.
Yes.
And what it looks like and why it needs to be done.
Good. Yeah. So basically I graduated from the ANU mid last year. And since then I've been working, well, Maddie, you wrote me into this one as well. Basically, I've been working with an organisation which is basically representing New South Wales Council. So it's the Canberra Region Joint Organisation. And we have 10 New South Wales Council members. And basically, I'm a project officer there, specifically working on waste. And I was working on a food donation project. So I was basically trying to connect local communities with regional communities with their local supermarkets. Because a lot of supermarkets have excess waste and it goes to landfill. So what better way than to get that waste into communities?
Absolutely. So it's not strictly an environmental project. It's not strictly like a social project. It's kind of something that encapsulates both.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And so I basically just delivered that project, and now it's gone picked up by the ACT government, and they're keen for that project to happen in the ACT. So that's what I'm doing now. And
keen to see that. So what, in terms of like why this project is going ahead, what sort of impact does the food waste that comes from a supermarket and goes to landfill have? Like, why is that a problem? If the food is not good for the shelves, why can't we just chuck it out?
Yeah, well, basically there's lots of different reasons. It's, there's the economic reason. So food waste is expensive. It's costing Australia about 36 billion per year. It's a social issue because we actually have a lot of food insecurity, especially in regional areas. And then, as you said, it's an environmental issue. And that's just because food waste, when it ends up in landfill, it gets decompressed, well, not it gets compressed, and then there's just no oxygen. So imagine little lettuce under all this waste, and you actually, if you go to a landfill and you find that piece of lettuce, it could literally be in like perfect quality because of there's no oxygen. And
Wow.
so it's like it basically like will get preserved. It's really weird, even if it's like years and years old. So basically there is lots and lots of emissions coming out of landfill because of food waste. It's organic, and so it's emitting methane, which is a lot worse than carbon dioxide. From memory, it's like 85 times worse than carbon dioxide over like a 100-year scale. That's top of my head. But yeah, let's just say it's a lot worse than carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically contributing to climate change is
Yeah. So, oh my God, there's so much going on there. Like you could spend so long talking about each one of those separate issues. And I don't know, maybe it's just not something that like we think about a lot when we're talking about zero waste. Like I think we focus a lot on what we're doing at home, maybe stopping our own food waste from ending up in landfill, which is really important, which we'll get to, I reckon. But yeah, there's definitely those kind of larger scale things that we need to start thinking about systemically. Hey, that's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And what sort of like, just from your experience with this project, like what kind of impact, like positive impact do you think this kind of thing can have on a community?
Yeah, so you cut out a little bit there. Is the question
Sorry.
what sort of impact?
Yeah, like
what sort of impact is
the positive impact on the community? Like what's the food insecurity thing, and like, you know, what is the saving the food from landfill doing for these communities?
Yeah. Well, basically, the whole project is to do with regional New South Wales, and that's just because if you're a community living, a bit in a bit of an isolated area, you might not have as many job opportunities. It's you've got a bit more of a way to get to supermarkets and that sort of thing. So yeah, basically there's lots of different things, demographically when it comes to food insecurity. It's also a gender issue. So women are 50% more likely than men to experience food insecurity. And we're seeing with COVID that young people are also being affected a lot more, especially international students. So yeah, it's pretty crazy when you look at the demographics. And each year, Food Bank, they release a hunger report where they sort of break down the data from that year with their research on food insecurity. So basically with regional New South Wales over COVID, we're basically seeing some interesting stuff. I mean, the disaster payments, like the COVID welfare payments and stuff, they were definitely helping people because obviously it's like Centrelink is like below the poverty line, so it was definitely helping people, but charities were pretty concerned about March this year because that's when payments stopped. So while it was like a bit of a band-aid 2020, this year was pretty rough just because payments, that extra amount of money stopped, and like COVID didn't stop. So
exactly.
like when you look at areas like the Southern Highlands where there's like heaps of cafes and heaps of hospitality businesses that were impacted by COVID, heaps of people were out of jobs and all sorts of stuff. So yes.
So there's definitely a bigger sort of issue here about I guess food security in the way of affordability, and how we're supporting people who are living under the poverty line, which is a horrible thing to hear, that regular Centrelink payments often don't cover all the bases. But then also the food insecurity that we're going to see from I think we're cutting out.
And I definitely sorry, go on.
You go on. You go.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't think like rescuing food from supermarkets should be the solution to food insecurity either. Like, you know, I think if we want to uphold dignity and we want to have a long-term sustainable solution to things like food insecurity, this definitely isn't the answer. But in saying that, it is a really great opportunity. And so, you know, if there is excess food from supermarkets, then I think it's a really great opportunity for that food to go towards the community. And I think ideally we could destigmatize food insecurity and also destigmatize things like, you know, food pantries and that sort of thing, where anyone could access food pantries, and it doesn't have to be this weird thing. It could just be like, oh, there's excess food and we should use that. It doesn't reflect on your identity, and it doesn't reflect on, you know, who you are as a person, or, you know, any stereotypes. So yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I think that's an amazing point. I think that's something that we can definitely strive towards, is trying to like open up more, just normalize conversations about sharing and reducing waste in that way. That's awesome. So in terms of like back to the sort of environmental impact of food waste and how it's being dealt with by supermarkets in particular, you know, is there sort of like a plan in place, like a supermarket's planning to do better? Because like there is so much food waste coming from supermarkets. Like, what is their plan, and is it kind of happening? Like, what are you seeing there?
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago we saw is it like the ugly produce line or something like that? I can't even remember.
True.
But that was when, you know, Woolies and Coles and stuff, they came out with that, which was cool. And for the last couple of years, we've seen some really competitive national targets. So basically they're all competing against each other to, you know, to win over consumers, because Australians do care about, you know, sustainability. And so they're trying to, you know, I guess, reach out to those ideals and, you know, those values. And so basically all of the major supermarkets, so Coles, Woolies, Aldi, they all have pretty competitive targets for, you know, either zero waste by 2025 or, you know, zero food waste by 2023. It's all like happening. And it's funny because I'm like, why can't the federal government have these targets for like, you know, net zero emissions? But I think because it is a business, it's like a bit more competitive, but that doesn't necessarily translate down to the store. And so, you know, whilst they have these big national targets, and that's awesome, it's easy for them to just sort of greenwash and to promote themselves as being like really amazing and sustainable. But then when you look like at the dock and when you look at all the excess food, it's like, what's actually happening to that?
Yeah. So in terms of what we could do about that, you know, we might not necessarily have an influence on the target that Woolworths sets to reduce their food waste, but is there something that we could do, like if we go into our local supermarket, a way that we can sort of like check out what they're doing, like who do we talk to, and like how do you sort of keep them accountable and get some transparency on like what each store is doing?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you wouldn't even know. And I don't know, I feel like it's tricky because you don't want to just be like, show me your food waste, because you'll probably get like kicked out of the store. But I definitely recommend like emailing them. I'm pretty sure Woolies, you know, when because obviously I've talked to all like the national team and all on board of the project and stuff. I've been told that Woolies responds to every single customer email. So, or at least they read it. So I think, you know, if you feel passionate about it, then you could always reach out to them that way and, you know, suss out what they're doing. And, you know, you could even just go down to your local store and build up a relationship with the store manager, or even just get involved with your local food relief charities, because they're the ones going into the store, they're the ones picking up the food. So that will probably give you a bit of an insight. But you probably can't like barge down the dock and
gotta approach it with a little bit of subtlety.
Yeah.
That'd probably be my approach, but I'm going to take your advice.
Yeah.
Just approach it subtly.
Show me your bananas.
Yeah. So just one last question I was wondering. So obviously, like, supermarkets are such a wide scale place that we can sort of like target our energy into, like making sure that their food waste is being captured and not going to landfill. But how do they stack up in terms of other areas in Australia, like compared to, I don't know, maybe like hospo, or like the waste that we make at home? Like, what's it kind of looking like?
Yeah, that's the thing, because I was actually surprised by this, because I just thought, oh, supermarkets, there's so many of supermarkets. Oh my gosh, I got really bright suddenly.
The sun will come
I'm
out.
just gonna okay. Yeah, basically I was really surprised, because like, oh, there's so many supermarkets in Australia, surely there's just like, that's where the majority of food waste is coming from. But actually it is households. So basically households is number one.
Wow.
And then when you look at the supply chain, the next is basically production. So farmers, if they've got any sort of produce that isn't going to make the cut, then that's not gonna it's not gonna get composted. Let's just say that.
Not gonna end well.
So yeah, I think households is definitely the biggest way that we can make change, which is actually cool, because everyone has food waste at home and everyone has the opportunity to reduce their emissions. And so that's actually cool, because then we can sort of take things into our own hands. But yeah, absolutely. Retail is pretty low on the list. But in saying that, retail also has the biggest opportunity for food rescue.
Yeah, such a good point. Yeah. Whereas maybe the food waste that we're creating at home isn't necessarily like, there is no further use for it. Maybe we just have to reduce it in the first place. But then anything that we do have, we make sure it's composted properly and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Cool. And so like, when you think about solutions, you could argue that households, the issue of household waste, the best solution there is behavior change and education. Whereas when it comes to retail and, production, the best solution might be, policy change and those sort of things.
For sure. So we've got to come at it from all angles by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I mean, for example, in France, a couple of years ago, they actually made it illegal for a business, including a supermarket, to waste food. So there's different approaches. Yeah. There's different strategies.
That's a pretty hard line approach, but I feel like at this point, it's the kind of thing we need to see, for sure.
Yeah, but basically a couple, maybe like a year ago, there was a feasibility study, which basically looked at, is it achievable for Australia to halve our food waste by 2030? And the answer was yes. So it is feasible. We just need to, take action.
Commit.
Yeah.
Sure. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jess. It was very enlightening. Yeah, and since we just learned that households are such a massive part of this problem, it means that we also have a massive stake in it and that we can do something about it. So I reckon anyone watching, if that's something that you're concerned about, that you're really passionate about, try and get involved with Zero Waste Revolution, because it is something that we focus on. We focus on all kinds of waste in all levels of the system, but definitely food waste at home is something that we can all tackle, and we're always trying to share sort of resources and ideas around that. So get on board. We've got a newsletter, we've got our social media. I'll put it all in the description. But yeah, and thank you so much.
It's all happening.
It's all happening.
You're welcome.
All righty. Have a good afternoon, and I will see you around. Bye.